Hello, y'all. I am back again for another video. And this video is going to be about another narcissistic lady friend and prayer and religion. Okay. So, again, this is another narcissistic lady friend, prayer and religion. Yes, indeed. Prayer and religion, y'all. So, I mentioned in another video that Miss Angel said one time, "What religion are you?" I said it don't matter. So what I do is I remove that control speak because it's not going to do anything but cause problems because I stated this in that video, I think, or something to this effect, that another narcissistic lady friend, they are the most disobedient in the universe. So it doesn't matter their religion when they don't follow any of it. They're not following any of it. Okay. So remember, Miss Angel, I met her through Elijah because Miss Angel knew Lil Kenny first, which is their half brother through their dad's side. So I met Miss Angel through Elijah. Elijah had stayed at our house for a brief period when he got out of jail this year, around April, the beginning of April of 2026. So, with that being said, um, again, this is another narcissistic lady friend discussing prayer and religion. Okay, so they still will bring it up. All they have to know is that you believe in a spiritual higher power. Hello, y'all. Thanks for coming in. So, this is another narcissistic lady friend discussing prayer and religion. Okay. Um, Hold on. Tony Romo, I don't want to have to block you, so please don't do that in the live, okay? Hello to Justin Garlic. Hello to you. Thanks for coming in. But Tony Romo, you said hello. Hello to you. But don't come in here and tell me to shut up, okay? That's highly disrespectful. Would you like someone to do that if you was doing a live? And I mean, I haven't even been here a good 5 minutes. And you don't have to listen to me. Tony Romo, you don't have to listen. So I'm not going to shut up. You need to go someplace else. That's what needs to happen. Yeah, thank you. So another person or gentleman said it could be a lady or a man. People are immature, bro. So at CITS Dana, thank you so much. Of sits Dana. Okay, so thank you for telling me you're a lady. Yeah, so I read that at the end, Dana. Yeah, I have a cousin named Dana. So yeah, thank you so much. Is it okay if I call you Dana? Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate you. Yeah, but that's what happens, Dana. Um it's yeah, it happens like that. Thank you so much for confirming that, Dana. So yeah, I mean, Tony Romo is tripping. Thank you so much for the like. Everyone, please click a like. This video is going to be very interesting. And I mean, I even appreciate Tony Romo coming in, but it's just it's a very abusive, right? just to come in somebody's life and tell them to shut up. I mean, go get a channel, man. Go find you something to do. Um, he stopped talking, Dana, is what he did. Because my moderator's not here on this live, so I'll just block him. I'm not gonna debate with the dude, and my moderator's not here, so I'll just block him. I don't want to have to do it. You got to remember, I want to explain something about YouTube, just so you understand how it works. Even if you're not a content creator, right? If you leave enough bad comments and people keep blocking you, that's why I don't like to block people. I try to avoid it because it does sit in YouTube. We have AI now. So AI can look at it and see that 50 people in the past week have blocked that person. So YouTube will shut your account down. They sure will. Now, a bunch of people can report your comment, but if you're not saying anything bad, AI and the YouTube platform, they won't do anything about it. But he's saying shut up. So say 50 people block him this week. They'll stop his account. It's like how you can go in Facebook jail. Remember Facebook jail? I've never been in Facebook jail ever. But the way people get in Facebook jail, just so you know, because people think, oh, well, I just posted something about President Trump. I don't vote or do any of that stuff no more for presidents. I'm not pro presidents of the United States. I'm not into that. But I'm just using this as an example. Like on Facebook, people would be like, oh, I just posted something that's saying that I'm anti-Trump or I'm for Trump. But the thing is, it's all the reports and stuff that person didn't even know that they were getting all along. So for Facebook, it might make it appear that you did that one comment against President Trump of the United States and your Facebook account got disqualified or put in Facebook jail, but it's a combination of things that you do. That's why I don't like blocking people, because I know what it does to their YouTube account and even their personal account. You can lose your personal account like that. So Tony Roma, that's why you shouldn't do that. You can get your personal account taken down. Then you won't be able to leave comments. But I've said something that offended him. So I don't know what I've said or done. He's telling me to shut up, which tells me he's been listening to me for quite a while. He ain't just told me to shut up out the blue. His ass has already been here. Yep, he left me alone, Dana. Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for the likes. So this video, again, is going to be about another narcissistic lady friend, the prayer and religion thing, right? So you got two different kinds. You got they take on a religion and they appear to behave like they're following it. So we'll use Christianity and Islam. Those would normally be the top two. Very few of these narcissistic ladies will have enough sense to become a Buddhist. They're better off Buddhist, so they can actually learn something about taking more power and control and responsibility and accountability of themselves. I studied Buddhism, but I never formally became a Buddhist. But I do believe it's something that you should add on to your religion if you're going to be a religious person, because now you can have some logic. And logic tells you you are in control a lot of your decisions. So yeah, you can pray to Jesus and the Lord in heaven. You could pray to Allah for a lot of different things. But until you get up off your ass and start doing something with yourself, it's not going to happen. The Lord ain't coming down here to take the crack pipe out your mouth. You got to put it down and do it yourself. That's the reality. And this is what sound philosophy and Zen Buddhism will teach. Your accountability and your choices over your life. This is why I stopped blaming the devil for my destruction long ago. Is it the devil's fault or is it Irene's fault? I sure helped the devil a whole lot, didn't I? See, you got to start coming to reality. So again, this is another narcissistic lady friend, prayer and religion. So you got two different kinds. You got the devout religious one, and they will normally will normally become, more religious as they get sick and as they age. It's not necessarily something that they really took on when they was 18, 19 or younger, or even at 30. So you got that one. And then you got the Miss Angels, another narcissistic lady friend. Now, I've let you listen to her, and she's still at just about 60 years old, has not stopped things, smoking weed, drinking, stuff like this. I mean, she's still pretty off track. Okay. And there's some areas I'm gonna be weak in too. So as human beings, we all have weaknesses, right? But what they love to do is claim they're praying for you, right? When no one's asking them to. And the problem with another narcissistic lady friend is they aren't doing generalized prayers enough. So like with Miss Angel, she's not going to be doing the Lord's Prayer regularly enough. I will do that. So the Lord's Prayer will cover the basics. Deliver us from the evil one. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. It's showing homage to the Lord. You're praying for pretty much everyone within that prayer in some sense. So, Daniel, my son, suffers from addiction and stuff like that. Vape, marijuana, alcohol, shrooms. So Daniel, he suffers with addiction. So Miss Angel, she's aware of this, and she's been a decent friend for me to kind of confide in and check in and stuff like that, even if it's just on the phone. So it was, let me see, around the 13th that morning. Let me see. I'll look at it so I can be more specific. Hold on, y'all. Because I was sitting in the restaurant that day when she mentioned, yep, so it started on the 12th. I went into a restaurant late, about 11:45 p.m. and sat in there in the restaurant. I went alone. Isaiah wasn't with me, and I talked to Miss Angel on and off till about 2 or 3 that morning. And actually, she was on one of my phone chronicles when she had to get together at her house. It was like a 2-hour, 30-minute video on one of the lives. I got to go through my lives and start naming them as well, and get caught up on that. I just been pushing them out and pushing them out. So Miss Angel mentions that she'll pray, that she gave this specific prayer, praying that Daniel will meet someone to intervene with his addiction, like praying that he meets a spiritual person that can intervene into his addiction. So first of all, Daniel's already met that person, and that's me. Okay. Pastor Dan, all the Muslims and Christians and all the people through the school. Daniel has met the most powerful people when it comes to spiritual essence. I'm talking about some people that's really filled with the Holy Spirit. Miss Angel is not going to top Pastor Dan or me. So that was a somewhat of a devaluation, praying that he'll meet this spiritual person. And this is someone, Miss Angel, she didn't have her biological mother in her life. So this will be like another type of my little sister type of spirit, you know, taking away from what's already present. So it's a total devaluation. You can go to one of Pastor Dan's services, and I could be shooting up heroin. If I went to Pastor Dan's services, I would at least be able to get off heroin for 6 months without having to go to a drug rehab. Okay. But it's not the service and it's not the minister, it's not the mother that's the problem. It's Daniel choosing to make a decision to be drug free, right? So, this is the thing. What people like Miss Angel don't understand, because they live in fantasy world. Okay, they live in a complete fantasy. Okay, so let me explain to you how I'm not in fantasy world. I already know that my youngest son Daniel will most likely die from addiction. I don't believe Daniel's going to live past 30, and I'm his mother. Okay, because for one, my son already has underlying heart issues and he has asthma. He's lost a tremendous amount of weight already. He's refusing to go to the hospital. By law, I have no right to make him go. Okay. He's not at the house at this moment. He's out doing his addiction thing. So, this is the thing. I've already accepted what could potentially happen to my son, because my son Daniel, it don't matter who he meet. He could meet Jesus tomorrow. If my son is deciding not to do what Jesus suggested he do, because Jesus not going to take him and slam him down and make him get the vape out of his mouth. I've sent Daniel screenshots. We just had a death of a 24-year-old young male that died from vaping for 2 years. It hardened his lungs because the vape has formaldehyde in it. And so Miss Angel, another narcissistic lady friend, part of how they pull the wool over your eyes is, this prayer stuff. So for one, in her case, she's not a devout religious person. So she doesn't pray enough for herself to be praying for Daniel. And I've already told her some months ago when she tried to bring religion into it. So always keep this in mind. When someone has been a drug dealer or is a drug dealer, that is a predator. So this is why so many people in religions get hurt, because as soon as someone says they're going to pray for them, they believe it's a good person. Now, Miss Angel says she wants to meet Daniel. Use logic here. Use logic here. Why would she want to meet Daniel? She already smokes weed with Lil Kenny. She drank with my son Elijah. I didn't introduce her to Elijah. I met her through Elijah. And I can see some benefits of being her friend at a distance, However, what she prayed for Daniel is a major insult to Pastor Dan and myself and every Muslim and Christian and non-Muslim and Christian or Buddhist that we've ever been around. Because we've been supplied with the spiritual intervention, but it's up to the person to decide that they want to be off drugs. I'm okay with it because I look at reality. So Daniel will not be the first drug addicted person I've ever met in my life. Okay. So Unfortunately, my son Elijah, which is a undiagnosed psychopath, set a very bad example for Daniel, and not everyone, when they've been set that kind of example, is able to pull out of it. It's just like pimps, how some pimps meet young girls and they put the girl in the streets and start pimping her when she's 14. So even when she escapes her pimp, she's unable to let the drug addiction go. So it's kind of like that, the person takes a strong hold over you at a very early age, and it's too heavy for you to fight. So in those cases, you just go to your death in that situation. So what in the heck? I dropped mine. Okay. You just go to your death in the situation. So Miss Angel, when she was telling me that she prayed for Daniel and she told me what she prayed for, I was very blunt with her. I said, he's already had spiritual intervention. She said, well, maybe he can meet someone else and they do it. I said, he can meet everybody he wants to. But Daniel has to decide to do it. A person, no human has the power at this point to make my son or your son free of drugs, especially when your son or daughter has already met those people. I'm not a dope addict. So if the child, whether it be a daughter or son, is not even having enough common sense to follow their parents' example of that, then that's too bad. There's nothing much you can do about it. So this is the thing with these another narcissistic lady friends. And I didn't tell her this part, what I'm saying here on this video, but I understand that my son's body will not continue to take the amount of drugs that he's putting in his body. His lungs will not accept it over time, and neither will his heart. Daniel has a very vulnerable body, and if his body does survives it, he'll end up with some kind of weird cancer, lung cancer, skin cancer, some kind of weird stuff is going to go on in my youngest son's body. So I am aware of this situation. So with another narcissistic lady friend with this prayer and religion stuff, it's just all a game. And don't buy it. And this is how. Let me tell you what's happened a lot in the Black community. I was watching this famous pimp story, and this was church people doing this, y'all. It was so disgusting. It's actually in one of my videos, this documentary of one of these famous pimps, right? And it's like a 10-hour documentary of this particular pimp. And his book is on this audio thing. I would have to, it's not deleted in my history. It's in there somewhere, but it's a 10-hour documentary, right? And the thing is, with this documentary, this pimp, when he was 3 years old, he was victimized by a church lady. This poor boy was 3 years old, and this deranged church lady had him doing stuff to her private part, and he was 3. So this is the thing. A lot of people, they've let some of these demonic church people babysit their kids and stuff like that, and things have happened to them. So Miss Angel, she smokes weed and she drinks with these young men, and they're 21 and up usually, from what I've seen. And it's legal. On the West Coast here, marijuana is legal. Elijah doesn't go around her anymore. I think he just felt uncomfortable getting high with her. I think Elijah, he didn't say it, but I think there was a discomfort. Elijah wasn't raised getting drunk with his mama and stuff like that. And Miss Angel's old enough to be Elijah's mama. So it's a predatory action a lot of times, and the prayer and the religion is a form of manipulation that narcissistic ladies will do. And remember, a lot of times they're sociopaths as well. So you must use logic. So Miss Angel says she wished she could meet Daniel. Yeah, I bet she does. Because maybe she would have another marijuana client, right? And it's very, what I try to do is this. This is the thing. I love Daniel. This is the thing. I love Daniel with all my soul. I love Isaiah with all my soul. I love Elijah with all my soul. But Daniel is very special to me. He's one of my only sons that tried to do the religious thing. He tried to say, okay, I'm going to become and baptized. Let me see if this works. Like I told Daniel from the beginning, that alone is not what's going to change your life. You got to make a decision. Don't take the church manipulation that Jesus is going to do it all for you. Because I knew when Daniel went into Christianity, he came in as an addict already. He was already a teenage addict, drug addict, okay? And so with that being said, with the love I have for my children, I'm not, as a mother, gonna introduce Daniel to any weed smoker that is willing to sell and smoke weed with young guys. I'm not gonna do that. That's not an intervention. Miss Angel prayer and whatever she thinks she could offer will not work. What Miss Angel needs to do is get herself off of marijuana and alcohol. She can't help Daniel. And so when she was telling me about this prayer, I let her know that what she's praying for has already happened. So this is what she should have done if she really wants to pray. She should ask me, what do I think my son would need? Because I would know him better. I already told her Daniel's heavily in the church. I don't know what makes her think that no one in the church or no one in Islam or Buddhism has already not worked with Daniel and tried to save him. What makes her think that? Julie and Jessica are ex-addicts, and they have just put their soul on the line to save Daniel. Every addict and non-addict, inclusive of me, has tried to save Daniel. Daniel does not want to be saved. I am already prepared for Daniel's death. I've already prepared myself because I know as his mother that his body is not going to tolerate the amount of drugs. And yes, liquor, large amounts of liquor, marijuana, shrooms, and vape, especially that vape. That vape is going to end Daniel's life. It won't happen tomorrow. It will take a little time, 2 years more. If he checks out of here early, if Daniel checks out of here early, 2 years. My son's body is not going to take that vape. He has a similar body as the 24-year-old that just passed. That 24-year-old smoked all that vape for 2 years. It hardened his lungs and he just died. Miss K was just telling me and Isaiah about it at the store. Okay, but another narcissistic lady friend, prayer and religion, they represent themselves like their prayer is so valuable. What did DMX say? Pray for yourself. She should be praying for herself. Why ain't she off marijuana and alcohol? She can't do nothing for Daniel. Seriously. It's almost a disrespectful prayer. I was talking to her on one phone chronicle. I'm not sure if that part of it went in the phone chronicle, but she was saying that her baby daddy from years ago called her crying about missing her food because the new woman didn't cook pork. And I told her, I said, that's a good thing. Let me go get my charger, y'all. Hold on, y'all. Thank you so much for the likes. So yeah, this says of course another narcissistic lady friend. Hold on, y'all. Break time. Thank you for your patience, y'all. Yeah, but thank you so much for whomever just came in. And so this is talking about another narcissistic lady friend and prayer and religion. So that's part of manipulation, trying to make it seem like they're concerned about you and stuff like that. And, Miss Angel saying she would pray for Daniel. But what she asked for was something that's already came in his life. And then, Miss Angel said, well, hopefully he'll come across it again. So what she's doing is what a lot of Christians do. They're putting more power in man. So actually, she's not focused on the creator. Narcissistic lady friends will have a very twisted perception and perspective of the Lord anyway. So what she's really doing is praying that a man or lady comes and intervenes and saves Daniel. And that's already came. That's why I'm his mother. And that's why we have Pastor Dan and all the other souls that have tried to speak to Daniel and set an example for him. Daniel is a very blessed child in general, on drugs or off drugs. However, you got to look up the vape deaths. I studied it online. I went into studying it more when Miss K was telling me about the 24-year-old young man. And in this case, I'll call him a boy because at 25, that's when your brain is fully developed scientifically. So 24, that's just a big old kid. So yeah, he's a man, but that's very young death. So um Daniel has to make the decision. So Miss Angel's prayer, she just should pray that he gets off drugs. That's what I would do. If you had a drug addict son or daughter and I was going to pray for them, I just would pray that they get off of it. I wouldn't try to say, well, I hope he meets him or her and this person talks them out of it, because that's putting more power in man than the creator anyway. And it's not enough power being put in the universe. Universally, there's no power in that. Okay. The power is in Daniel stopping. So her and I, we had a debate about it. And like I told her, that's already happened for Daniel. He's a church person. It was a great devaluation to me as well as his mother. Once you know somebody's mother or father is not a drug addict, then put more of the responsibility on the drug addict. But online, people are going into the emergency departments, going into cardiac arrest from overexposure to vape. And yes, we are having deaths due to people just being on vape. Their lungs are shutting down, their lungs are hardening. Um, I know one lady is physically disabled from a few years of vape. She started vaping when she was in her early 50s. She lives in a nursing home. Okay. Elijah's now pretty much blind in one eye after he started vaping. So I'm seeing real live side effects. One gentleman that was vaping, it was damaging his throat and causing coughing and throat dryness. And it also causes your blood pressure to go up. So you will develop hypertension. And they'll call it essential hypertension or whatever, but you will develop high blood pressure. And once you start vaping, you may develop high blood pressure and find that you've been off vape for years and you still cannot get your blood pressure to go back down to 120. It's like now your blood pressure is on and off permanently stuck at 140, equivalent to when people gain weight. When they become 50 pounds overweight, their blood pressure is never at that 120, the top number at 120 or below, considering that normal blood pressure. So this is how this stuff is working now, right? So reality is reality. I know my son's body. I gave birth to Daniel, and I just don't think his physical body is going to survive the repeated abuse of what they call your temple. You know, in Christianity, your body is considered your temple. It's very precious and it should be cared for. Okay? And that's not what Daniel's doing. Daniel's already overdosed on drugs before. It wasn't vape, liquor, shrooms, or marijuana. It was an even harder drug that he OD'd on the beginning of 2024, and he's still doing it. So Daniel likes drugs more than he likes his life. It's a form of suicide, y'all. It's basically like the person's committing suicide. Some people just don't value their human life here. Your kids won't be just like you. And you know, there's things that go on that may traumatize people. I get it. Even your own sons and daughters, you just never know. And some of us will know the traumas that they've been through. Sometimes our own sons and daughters, they get involved in stuff in the streets that they can't forgive themselves for, inclusive of murders. Your sons and daughters, they go out here when they be trying to join these gangs. They rape people, they've murdered people, they've jumped on people, they assaulted people. Some of them might have somebody kidnapped in a basement right now or in a cellar. You just don't know what these people have done. With Daniel, he lives this double life. He has a facade. Also, that crip sign that they be doing with their signs, with their hands, I mean. I've been observing this sign seeing kids do it in person and seeing kids do it on videos. And I do think that that crip crip sign is a dedication to Satan. I think it's a symbol to show your homage and your love for Satan. I really believe this, and I believe that the people that crip sign, it's kind of like the circle. They take their pointy finger and thumb, and they do these different signs. It's a form of, it's in the spiritual world. What it appears to me, because I look at what's going on in their life after the crip 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 crip, and so the sign is demonic in nature. And notice on some of these videos, some of these males that do it, they're unaliving their mothers and all kind of stuff. So be careful with that crip crip stuff. But it's a sign of their dedication to the devil. And there is a such thing as satanic worship. That's not being an atheist. I mean, someone can be an atheist and they don't believe in any of it. But that crip crip crip, that's satanic worship. Okay? And that's stuff that these kids, they'll do false flagging and stuff like that. So I don't deal with fairy tales and dreams and all that stuff. I mean, fantasies, I'm going to say fairy tales and fantasies. So um, all I want to do is use logic, and I prepare myself for, you must, if you have a child that's addicted, you must prepare yourself for their death, serious injury, hospitalization. This is something you should prepare yourself for. Oh, hello, Leonard Wilson. How are you, dear? I love you so much. Thank you for coming in. How are you feeling? Thank you for praying for us. Yeah. Thank you, Leonard Wilson. So this is about another narcissistic lady friend. And I'm talking about, thank you so much for the like. Leonard, if you clicked the like, thank you. Or whomever clicked it, thank you. So I'm talking about prayer and religion, and how Miss Angel was talking about praying that Daniel, my son Daniel, meet this special intervention. You feeling the same means you're still sick, Leonard Wilson? Is that what you're saying? Because last time we talked, you were sick. So you're saying it's kind of like even now? Oh, you're on a new chemo treatment. Okay. Well, that's a good thing, because I admire how you keep fighting for your life, right? You haven't given up. So that's a good thing. Sometimes when they switch those chemo treatments, those work. They got to try different treatments. So it just means they're trying. It sounds like you're under good care, where they're really loving you and they're trying everything they can do to save you. So, I mean, I commend your doctors and medical staff for that. What you think about that, Leonard Wilson? Oh, Leonard Wilson says I was talking about me loving you and Natalie. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I gotta let Natalie know about that. Yeah, Natalie's the best. She's very good hearted. Yeah, I'm gonna let her know about that. Hold on. Make sure I do a reminder. So I'll let her know, because she's not in here today. Um, that's what I had a troll come in that Tony Roma told me to shut up. They scan it to see if a moderator's here, but my moderator, she's here 90% of the time. So, she has a life. It's pretty early. So hold on one second, y'all. So hold on. I'm checking the comments. Hold on one second. Yeah, so Leonard Wilson says they do care about me. I was talking about the love you and Natalie have for me. Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. We do love you, Leonard Wilson. And I got to go in there. I know you left some comments in some of the other videos. So I'm going to go in there and respond to those. Okay. So I'm going to get caught up on these comments too. So, of course, this is about another narcissistic lady friend about the prayer and religion. And just, well, they're always going to be doing devaluation, right? So discounting what's already been done. And they haven't been around a long time. I mean, she's praying for intervention. She hasn't known Daniel his whole life. I've never Miss Angel has never met Daniel in person. I'm, I'm not going to introduce her to Daniel because I can't have my friends or anyone that knows me selling my child drugs. Oh, thank you, Leonard Wilson. You want to be a moderator? You do? I remember offering you that before. You want to moderate on this live? Let me see. Let me see. Hold on, let me figure it out. Okay, so see, type a comment and see what it looks like now, Leonard. I'll add you as a moderator on here for this live because you're saying last time you weren't sure if you wanted to be a moderator, but since you're saying that you're interested, hold on. Hold on. Let me. I'm checking this. Okay, so try to type something now to see what it does, Leonard Wilson, to see if it shows up blue. Because I clicked it. Maybe it's going to take a minute. So, Leonard, type another comment to see what it shows up. I don't know how many moderators is allowed for this channel. I don't know if they allow me more than one or not. So, I would need you to type another comment to see what it does. Because I clicked on add as moderator. Oh, it wants me to pick standard moderator. Okay, so you're now okay, now I just see what it did. Okay, so there you go. You got the wrench. Yeah, so just yeah, I won't be here very long, but I'm sure I can help along the road. Yeah, no problem. Yeah. So yeah, so if you just want to help here and there and not more consistent, I'll just put your wrench on whenever you're saying you want to help, especially since you're sick. I don't want to put too much pressure on you. So whenever you say you want to help, I'll put you in blue. But if you don't want to help, you can just participate. So that's the way I'll take it easy on you, you know, because I don't want to run you off as a viewer too. Yeah, I understand you don't have a lot of time. Absolutely. I get that. I appreciate you coming in here, period, Leonard Wilson. with I mean, with all you're going through, I appreciate having you as a viewer, you know. So yeah, so that's the thing with another narcissistic lady friend is the prayer and religion. And it's really, I'm just going to be quite frank. This is the thing I've learned about religion. And just be careful with this. Y'all don't go to church together. If that's not a shared activity that you and that particular lady friend has been involved with, it may not even be appropriate to be talking about it. I've never told Miss Angel I would pray for her sons and daughters. Because for one, I'm praying for the world when I do the Lord's Prayer, right? But I would have to get to know her family better. I don't know what their needs are. So the prayer, you have to be very careful with what you asking for. Like, especially, narcissistic ladies, they have a broken gift. And so I would never pray for you to meet a man or a lady to come in your life and change your life. That's not even a prayer. Yeah, blue means you're a moderator. That's what it means. Blue means you're a moderator. But like you said, you don't have a lot of time. So yeah, and Natalie, even in time, as things change, Natalie might become a doctor and only can moderate once a week or something. People's lives change over time. So yeah, so you're moderate. So just go ahead if you feel like moderate Leonard Wilson. I appreciate you. Um don't don't put anybody just communicate with them. Um Try not to remove them, like block them. I even Natalie doesn't block people because when you block them too much, it actually hurts the channel. Yeah, you're welcome, Leonard Wilson. No problem. Love you so much and thank you. So, going back to what I was saying with this prayer and religion thing, with another narcissistic lady friend, her prayer was a great insult upon our pastor and everybody that's been in Daniel's life his whole life. There's no person, man or lady, that can change Daniel from being a drug addict. It's nobody that can change him. There's no magical person that he's gonna meet because he's already met him. That's the thing. And I told Miss Angel that too. He's met him. He has to choose now. Oh yeah, Leonard Wilson. Thank you. Leonard Wilson says, beautiful, thank you. I'll get back to your PowerPoint. I love how you call these PowerPoints, Leonard Wilson. And then Leonard Wilson says that'll work. Leonard Wilson says, never that, sweetheart. Yeah, thank you so much for your kindness, gentlemen. And I'm talking to Leonard Wilson on that one. So, yeah, just be careful with it. A lot of times, this is the thing with narcissistic ladies, right? They're they're either doing one or two things. Um, One of the things they lack is the ability to create a prayer. So there's two different types. You got narcissistic ladies, friends that are in religion, and so they're praying the prayer that Muhammad taught them to pray. They're very generalized, and those prayers are okay. One of those can be the Lord's Prayer. Okay, the salats and the Lord's prayers and the all, you got so many different type of prayers in every religion, right? However, narcissistic ladies, their weakness is going to be being able to create a prayer. Like if you never saw a prayer in your life, ever in your life, would you know how to create one? If every Bible app, Quran app, all of that disappeared, could you still pray? And the answer would be a lot of narcissistic ladies wouldn't be able to do that anymore. So when Miss Angel told me that she would pray for Daniel to get this intervention, she prayed for man to save Daniel. And man, the only man or male that can save Daniel is himself. She's praying, she's not even praying to the creator I pray to. Because she's praying for someone to intervene on Daniel's behalf that's human. I don't need that kind of prayer. Because humans are consistently trying to save Daniel. Pastor Dan, myself, and numerous people. When Daniel dies, he's going to hurt a lot of people. Like I said, he's a very blessed child. And he will bring some level of pain to people when he finishes unaliving himself. Because my son is not going to survive the vape. That's a promise. The Lord has already given me the spirit of discernment to know that. So, in a way, when Miss Angel was saying she'll pray, because she's praying that some man or lady is going to come to Daniel and have this special talk and save him. Yeah, thank you, Wilson. She should be praying that the creator take control of Daniel. Daniel is not a son without support from myself and the community. She's talking about my son like he don't have his mother in his life. It's actually, what she said is disrespectful. And this is why I told Miss Angel early on when she asked me what religion was I told her it don't matter. Don't matter, but she's still trying to bring religion up. She's too focused on my son when her sons and her have the same issue. Prayer and religion. And it's maybe not genuine anyway, because she's telling me she prayed. I mean, oftentimes when I pray for people, sometimes I keep it to myself. Why you got to advertise you prayed for someone? Sounds like an advertisement. I don't mess around with predators. I'm no fool, right? Daniel's a young male, and she's just looking for another young male to smoke pot with. All I want is this. If my son died tomorrow, he created a death date for himself. If Daniel died tomorrow, he created a death date for himself. All I want is for Elijah and all the other predators to stop getting high with my son. I'm fine if Daniel goes to his death or gets seriously injured or is hospitalized, paralyzed, anything that could come his way due to his drug addiction. I don't want my undiagnosed psychopathic son, Elijah, current and prior drug dealers like Miss Angel. I don't want them smoking and getting high with my son. Elijah stopped doing it, because I told Elijah, I'll take care of him. Don't get high with any of my family members. That's a boundary of mine. And Elijah respects that boundary. Don't play around. I don't want nobody I know helping to kill my baby boy. That's all I'm asking. Miss Angel should be careful with people's kids. That can create violence. That's a boundary of morality. See, predators can't trick me with prayer. You pray that I come to the lake to meet you, and now you have fucking drowned me. I met a real religious man many, many years ago. I didn't date him or anything. He would always be at this grocery store. So he wanted me to meet him one morning. He had crosses and all kind of tattoos all in his face. Um, he had obsessive compulsive disorder, and he was a extreme addict. So I appreciated the kindness, but out of the blue, he wanted me to come down to one of the biggest lakes in this state. Um, I can't swim. I almost drowned when I was 12 as well. So he wanted me to come down there to the lake and meet him at 5 in the morning. He's a serial killer. He wanted to push my ass in the water. But the way he was going to trick me there was by prayer. What we going to do? Oh, we're going to pray. I wouldn't be on this video right now if I would have went. A lot of people are lured to their death. Oh, Leonard Wilson says, and I don't know how a person can do that and not know the prayer that praying for personally. Yeah, and that's why you got to make your prayer generalized. I'm his mother. I'm the first person that the Lord has introduced to Daniel to save him. That's the intervention right there. Her prayer, what she says she's going to pray for, is an insult to everybody that loves Daniel. She says she's going to pray that he meets a person that saves him. So she's putting more power over the Lord. She's putting man and woman, and in this case, I'll say man and woman, or gentlemen and ladies. She's putting us more powerful than the Lord. He's already met the people. There's nobody else that Daniel can meet that's going to be the final talk to get him off drugs. Daniel's made a decision to die on drugs. He's committing suicide, y'all. And I legally cannot do anything about it because of his age. This is why so many parents have nervous breakdowns when their children die, because of women like Miss Angel that paint fantasies. So you can't get into this fantasy world with narcissistic ladies, because they'll have you so messed up in the mind you want to commit suicide when your child dies. They don't have a close enough relationship with the Creator to be praying for me. I'm just being honest. The average narcissistic lady, they're going to get it wrong. And I told her the truth. She said, well, maybe he'll meet someone else. I said, he's already met him. He has to make a choice. She said, well, she wished she could meet him. No, you ain't meeting him. Not through me. I'm not going to introduce my drug addicted son to a drug dealer. Karma could come on me for that. Narcissistic ladies, I keep boundaries with them. She's my friend. She's not going to become friends with my sons. She's already asked if she could meet Isaiah, asking me where Isaiah work at. That ain't none of her business. She's not cool with Isaiah. She don't need to know where Isaiah work at. That's how your family gets set up. She don't need to know where my son work at. And she don't need to meet Daniel.
Stop scrolling.
She lucky I'm letting her talk to me. She called me a virtual friend, y'all. She called me a virtual friend, since we mostly talk on the phone. I don't need to be around her a lot in person. I don't need no weed. Everybody that's going around her on some weed or liquor. I'm not cut like that. I'm not always. That's why I live healthy. Let me tell you something. Look, I told y'all my mother and grandmother was a narcissistic sociopath. Both of them. That's all I need. I don't need no extra women up around me that's got that mentality. It's predatory. And if she has any ill will, if she has any predatory planning in her brain of wanting to meet Daniel so she can supply him with weed, that's very dangerous. She's going into a dangerous realm. And see, I be careful with people like that. With Miss Angel's long-term prison history, she won't fear me in the way that she should. She'll take it for granted. And that's how people get themselves hurt. Empathic crimes. And I don't want to hurt nobody. So I don't put myself in a situation. My son, Daniel, could die at any time. I'm prepared for it. However, he could go to his death and I can say he ain't getting his drugs from nobody I know. All them addicts Daniel's hanging around now, those people, a couple of them are not new in his life because I found out who a couple of the kids were. Jaleesa's children. But they're younger than Daniel, so a couple of them come to find out, yes, they have known Daniel for some time. But those other claiming they crip, I don't know those Negroes and don't want to meet them. And I told Daniel this too. If any of my children are drug addicts, I do not hang around their drug addict friends. I don't consider them friends at all. When your son or daughter is on drugs, why would you be cool with their junkie friends and their drug suppliers? And if Miss Angel brings it up again, I'm going to tell her ain't nothing she could do to save Daniel. I pretty much told her that in so many words that he has to save himself. But if she brings it up again, I'm going to tell her she can't save my son. He got to save himself. And somebody saying that they're going to pray for you and trying to, push their religion off on you, it doesn't necessarily mean it's genuine. Why don't she pray she get off weed too? That's what she needs to do. Get off of it herself. Leonard Wilson says, that shows you as being a sorry parent, don't know how to raise your children, very disrespectful. Like when they fast too. Yeah, like Leonard, you saying that she trying to say, I'm a sorry parent. Yeah, it's kind of like a devaluation. You're picking up on it too, right, Leonard? Yeah, I'm the intervention. He just didn't want to follow it because he's a Gen X child. Gen X children, I said this in another video or live video, that they don't mirror their parents. This is a whole generation of children. They do not mirror the parent. So, back in the day, like my grandmother, she was not a drug addict. I mirrored that. I'm not a drug addict. But I'm also not a Gen X kid. Gen X kids do not mirror their parents. So what they're called is lost causes. Daniel, let me tell you something about Daniel. Before Daniel started leaving the house, more and more, starting around May of this year, when it got real heavy, when Isaiah and I would do the Lord's Prayer, Daniel stopped praying. He refused to pray. I didn't make him do it. because he's showing he don't believe in no Lord anyway. See, that's the thing with Daniel, and I've talked to Daniel about this. Daniel goes to church. Yes, he does. He participates in religion, but he tries to mimic. What he does mimic is crip, 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 crip. He mimics that shit, but he ain't mimicking me or Pastor Dan. He's not mimicking that. He's not copying that. He's not mirroring that. Mirror, like looking in the mirror, you repeat what you see in the mirror. He's not doing any of that. He's sure not. Yeah, I agree with you, Leonard Wilson. So that shows you as being a sorry parent. And Leonard Wilson is not saying I'm a sorry parent. He's just saying he's reading through the lines of what Miss Angel is saying. Leonard Wilson says, like when they fast, who knows what they're praying to and why they're praying. I'll be very careful not knowing who she actually praying for or praying to. She claims she's I guess she would be like a Christian or whatever. She one of the ladies that helped raise her son LJ was a Christian. So all she knows is more about Christianity, I think. I don't think that she's been exposed to much else. But that's a bad thing that that's all she knows about, because I even told Daniel, drug addicts need Buddhism. Buddhism is a great place to go for addiction. And let me tell you something, there's been ex-addicts all outside the courthouse, and they're passing out their cards and they're actually successful at breaking the addiction. You got drug addicts that are going towards Buddhism and they've been drug free for at least 10 years and have not relapsed. Yeah, so Leonard Wilson says, like when they fast, who knows what they're praying to. Okay, I read that one already. Let me go to the next one. Leonard Wilson says, did everybody in the room give up the lights and the support? Play this channel. Thanks. Thank you so much, Leonard Wilson. And then Leonard Wilson says, I found out a long time ago, if you can't fix your problem at home, how can you help me fix when you always got to clean up the backyard first? Exactly. She's still on weed herself. Can't help Daniel. Daniel won't respect her. I raised him. I'm a drug-free person. Elijah's an undiagnosed psychopath. He doesn't go around Miss Angel anymore. He knows what she's doing ain't right. So Leonard Wilson says, being a Christian is only a title. People carry titles, but they need to be Christ followers. Being Christ followers is failing. It's failing because you're following someone you never met. I was just watching a video, Leonard Wilson, and it explains potentially why Christ did not die on the cross. You gotta study real bad. It actually claims that he did not die on the cross. He was actually not killed at all and retreated to another country, and they escaped, and he escaped. That's why he wasn't in the tomb anymore. Islam and other religions have been saying it for years, that he did not die on that cross. There's several different stories, and all of them lead to he was not. We weren't there. All I know is this. As I get older, I've never been the pray to Jesus type anyway. It's not rational. He's a man in flesh, just like we are. First John says he's the son. He's the son of God. And in Jewish philosophy, son just means God created Jesus. It explains it in these videos. At some point later today, I'll find the video. So by midnight tonight, I will find that video about the potential that Jesus did not die on the cross, and I'll put it in the description box. Just give me to midnight and I'll find it. So you got to read and study more. Yeah, you got to study more. Yeah. And following Christ has failed our country because you're not taking your power on. You're following someone you never met. There's nothing wrong with feeling the spirit of Christ. But as I age, I pray more to the Creator. I study more. Leonard Wilson says, there's something that I have to check out. I'm saying I don't believe you. I'm not saying I don't believe you. It's something that I have to look into for myself. You have all the time in the world. I'm not going no place. Yeah. Let me, hold on. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get my other device. And I'm going to, because I want to, remember this is Advanced Insight channel. So I bring stuff to you that you ain't heard that's potentially true. All I knew from my soul decades and decades ago that you not believing Jesus died on the cross will not send you to hell. I've been knowing that from my soul. Now I find a teaching from one of the greatest men in the universe that actually found the true God. See, he wasn't anti-God, he was anti-lies. And so I've been knowing from my soul that the fact that you don't believe Jesus died on the cross would not send you to hell. I've been knowing that. This is logic, right? This is why it won't send you to hell. What good Lord would make you want to believe something that you never saw? Think about that. It is natural not to believe certain things that you never saw. Some people don't even believe in the Virgin Mary story. I used to doubt that. I believed it because the Creator can create anyone he wants to. Right? But you got to be very careful believing stuff that's not scientifically correct. I've given birth to 7 children. One was already deceased when he was born. Okay. I've given birth to 7 children, and all of them needed sperm to get here. Now, Mary is special. She's Jesus' mother. I get it. Some people are special, so it's different. But at the end of the day, scientifically, sperm is needed to create babies. Even if I would have had every child I had at the sperm bank. So there's people that have never believed that a virgin got pregnant without sperm. Logically. When I was a virgin, I got pregnant by the first boy that I gave my virginity to. Now, I didn't get pregnant the same day I gave my virginity away. I got pregnant like a year later, right? But at the same time, if I would have got pregnant as a virgin the same day I had sex, it would have taken his sperm to get me pregnant. Okay, you got to connect science. So I'm just letting you know, forget, what people have believed about if Jesus died on the cross. Many people never believed that Mary was a virgin. They say she was about 14 or something like that when she got pregnant. I was 15 when I had my first daughter. I was no virgin. And the creator didn't get me pregnant. Think about it. I mean, I could come on here on my next video. That's what I'll do. I'll come on here on my next video and I'll lie and tell y'all that when I was 15 and had my first daughter, the creator got me pregnant. I could do that for you, but everybody will leave the channel because y'all will know it's a motherfucking lie. Okay? So I'll be right back. Hold on, y'all. I'm going to get the other device so I could find the video. Hold on, y'all. I'll be right back. Love you, Leonard Wilson. Thank you. I am back, y'all. So hold on. Let me try to find this video. Hold on. And I was not uncomfortable with the information. Logic. If someone nailing me to the cross, statistically, there was many guys that had been nailed to the cross and they either didn't die or it took them a while to die. So it was hold on one second, let me find this video. Yeah, I think this is it right here. Hold on.
What if you could make a song using only your voice?
Let's see.
Let's start with the drums.
Leonard Wilson says, laughing my ass off. Do you know when we think of Christ, we have to think higher than us? When you think of the creator, you think higher than yourself. See, I pray to the creator of Jesus. The white man got you doing that and stuff. It's not even your original religion, Christianity, to tell the truth. Hold on.
Which all things exist.
Hold on.
There is a truth buried beneath silence. A truth that popes, emperors, inquisitors, and theologians did everything in their power to erase from history. Manuscripts were burned. Witnesses were eliminated. Entire libraries were reduced to ash.
Fair use,
And
y'all.
yet, that truth survived. It hid itself in fragments of papyrus, in forbidden codices passed hand to hand, in secret lamps and forgotten caves scattered across the Judean desert. It did not survive because it was protected, but because it was dangerous. Fair use, y'all. Because some truths are too... He's explaining why it could potentially not be true that Jesus died on the cross. Disruptive to destroy completely. They don't vanish. They fracture. They retreat into the margins of history, waiting for someone willing to look where authority tells them not to look. This story begins with one of those truths, a truth so destabilizing that religious institutions preferred oblivion over debate, erasure over explanation. And it leads us to a single question that was never meant to be asked out loud. What if what survived was not the truth? But the Jesus' body was never recovered fully, as a deceased body, he's explaining how they went back and his body just wasn't there. So check this out. If you think I got killed and you come back and I am not there, I have escaped. Okay? You want to just use logic, right? I have escaped. Okay? Now, are angel-like beings capable of coming to grab you up and help you escape? Yes. It's happened when cars have been pulled off people by spiritual beings. I could get stuck up under a car and the angels can come lift that car up and remove me and make it where I can get free. It's happened. But just in general, if you think somebody got killed and you go back to where they was buried at or stored in a tomb or whatever and they're gone, they got the fuck up and left. Why is it so easy to believe that the Lord created Jesus and didn't protect him? Actually, if you consider that Jesus did not die on the cross, because this video is going to say Jesus never died on the cross, it actually shows you the true power of the Creator. Because the true Creator is not doing all this murdering, y'all. That's the devil. The Lord in heaven is more powerful than the devil. So you don't think the Lord could have had Jesus escape and live in harmony and go over ways someplace else and live like he wasn't even Jesus? Our Lord is that powerful. What do they call it? When I forgot what's the name of the term when you've been the witness protection program would be a perfect example of it. When you are a witness and you are in danger of getting murdered, what does the witness protection program do? They give you a whole different identity. They move you to another country, island, or city. They change your name. They help you do a makeover to change the way you look. The thing is with the witness protection program, you are not allowed to have any contact with anyone from your past, including your own parents. So if you are found to be making contact with any of your relatives, you will be removed from the witness protection program if they find it out. And they explain to you how very dangerous that is. Like if the mob or whatever really wants to kill you and they have the means and the money and the armory and people to do it, it's very dangerous for you to talk to your mother because all phones are being monitored, and now the mob know where your mother is or your siblings or relatives. So actually, considering this option that Jesus never died on the cross actually made me look at the Lord more loving, because I'm like, my Lord did not kill his own son.
Why is it a better Lord that we worship and he murdered his own child? Yeah, exactly, Leonard Wilson. It's something to think about. So you mean all this time we're okay with Jesus being murdered because we think we serving some great Lord because he murders his own creation? No, that's not a loving Lord. And it's not the one I serve. So it actually brought some peace and harmony to my soul to know that the good Lord that I serve does not murder me or his son. That's the devil doing all of that. The devil is doing all that freaking murdering. So hold on. Fair use, y'all. This video says Jesus never died on the cross.
But the version that power needed to survive. The man who would dare to follow that buried truth was not a priest, not a revolutionary, not a prophet, but a quiet lens grinder living on the margins of society. Baruch Spinoza was born into a Portuguese Jewish family in Amsterdam, raised inside a tightly knit religious community that defined identity, morality, and belonging. And then, at just 23 years old, he was cast out of it completely. In 1656, the synagogue pronounced one of the most violent excommunications in its history, cursing him by day and night, forbidding anyone to speak to him, trade with him, or even read what he wrote. In a single moment, Spinoza lost his family, his friends, his protection, and his future. To the world, he became a dead man walking. But in that absolute isolation, something unexpected happened. Stripped of authority, tradition, and fear of social punishment, Spinoza gained a freedom almost no thinker of his time possessed.
What do we do? We fight.
Sorry, y'all, that's a commercial.
The two of us. Besides,
Skip.
He gained a freedom almost no thinker of his time possessed. The freedom to question everything. By day, he polished optical lenses to survive, shaping glass so others could see more clearly. By night, he polished something far more dangerous: ideas. He questioned who wrote the Bible, whether miracles were real, whether God intervened in nature, whether the soul was immortal. And eventually, inevitably, he questioned the most untouchable story of all: the death of Jesus Christ. For Spinoza, truth did not belong to churches or scriptures. Truth belonged to reason. And reason, once unleashed, does not stop at safe questions. When Spinoza turned his attention to the crucifixion, he did not begin with faith or outrage, but with something far more unsettling: calm, methodical reason. The Gospels tell us that Jesus was crucified on a Friday afternoon and was dead within roughly 6 hours. His body removed before sunset and placed in a private tomb. 3 days later, the tomb was empty. For the church, this was the cornerstone miracle. For Spinoza, it was a problem. Roman crucifixion was not designed to kill quickly. It was engineered to prolong suffering, sometimes for days. Victims often lingered on the cross, dying slowly from dehydration, exhaustion, and asphyxiation. Some survived nearly a week, and yet Jesus, a healthy man in his early 30s, was declared dead in a single afternoon. Even the sources admit something was strange. The Gospel of Mark records that Pontius Pilate was surprised when he heard Jesus was already dead. Surprised. That word matters. Roman governors oversaw countless executions. Pilate knew how long crucifixion usually took. Why was he astonished? Then there was the body itself. Crucified criminals were typically thrown into mass graves as a warning to others, denied burial and dignity. But Jesus' body was handed over to Joseph of Arimathea, a wealthy and influential man with direct access to the Roman governor. The body was removed quickly, treated hastily, and placed in a private tomb. And then, the final inconsistency. The tomb was empty, but the body was never found. Spinoza did not see proof of resurrection here. He saw gaps, contradictions, unanswered questions. And because he rejected miracles as violations of nature, he was forced toward a conclusion far more dangerous than disbelief. If Jesus did not rise from the dead by supernatural means, then something else must have happened. And whatever that explanation was, it had been carefully hidden. The answer Spinoza was moving toward did not come from a church, a sermon, or a creed. It arrived quietly, late one winter night, wrapped in cloth and carried by a man who should never have crossed his threshold. Years after the excommunication, one of the very figures who had signed Spinoza's banishment appeared at his door, risking his reputation, his safety, and his standing in the community. He brought with him a manuscript, old, fragile, written in Greek. The kind of text most people never knew existed and were never meant to see. It had belonged to his brother, a collector of forbidden writings who had died disillusioned, muttering that everything they had been taught was a lie. The Memoirs of Mary Magdalene. Not a gospel sanctioned by the church, not a legend written centuries later, but a first-person account claiming to preserve what actually happened. As Spinoza began to read, his heart raced, because the opening lines did not speak of resurrection or glory. They spoke of breath. Mary wrote that she was there when Jesus was taken down from the cross, and that she saw with her own eyes that he was still alive. If this document was authentic, then the crucifixion, the death, and the resurrection were not misunderstood details. They were a constructed narrative. And in that moment, Spinoza understood the true danger of what he was holding. This was not a challenge to theology. It was a challenge to history itself. According to the manuscript, the crucifixion was not a failed execution, but a controlled one. Mary described details the canonical Gospels never explained. Jesus was given a substance that was not ordinary vinegar, but a sedative mixture known in the ancient world to induce a death-like state. The spear thrust that followed did not prove death. The flow of blood and water suggested circulation, not a corpse. Everything happened quickly, precisely because time mattered. Joseph of Arimathea arrived with unusual speed, claiming the body before Roman soldiers could verify death, taking Jesus not to a public grave, but to a private estate where physicians were already waiting. In this account, nothing was improvised. Judas was not a traitor.
So, okay, I'm reading the comments. So, Leonard says, I'm not as good as Natalie, but I'm doing my best. Set a demonstration, sis. Yeah, everyone is going to be a different type of moderator. Natalie has a lot of experience. She's been here longer. So, what I try not to do is compare people. I'm not even as good as Natalie. Okay, so Natalie is Natalie, and she has a lot of energy. So, I don't think if I was just a moderator, I would be as good as Natalie. So I would agree with you there, Leonard, just in general for us all. But everybody has different talents, and I can see your talents here. And I just appreciate you moderating today. So Leonard Wilson also says, you can bring it a little bit closer also about the King James Version Bible. It is something to truly think about, Leonard Wilson says. Leonard Wilson says, I was going to bring that up, but you get to know. You got it on the head. So Leonard Wilson says, I show everybody that's in my circle with agape love. Yeah, I would agree with that. Agape love, it's the Greek word for a type of love. So Leonard Wilson says, I think that's the one where you love everyone I'll look it up again. Agape love. Yeah, so Leonard Wilson says, "Do you know when we think of Christ, we have to think higher than ourselves?" Yeah, and I took us back to the Creator too. Because from my perspective, the Lord, our heavenly Lord, is not a human. So that's the problem when we keep wanting to believe that the Lord is a human. The Lord is not a spirit of flesh. We have flesh. We killing, we doing all this bad stuff. The Lord is not a fleshly being, okay?
Judas was not a traitor, but a participant, ensuring Jesus was arrested by officials who knew the plan rather than by a
Yeah, and
mind that
hearing it better. I got a new speaker that I still have not hooked up. So I got to get that speaker going. But this is the best I could do till I get the new speaker going. Okay.
would have killed him outright. Even Pilate's role shifted. He was not weak or
Fair use, y'all.
confused, but calculating.
That's a commercial, y'all.
But calculating. His recorded surprise that Jesus was already dead was not ignorance. It was confirmation that the plan had worked. The resurrection, then, was not a miracle meant for the masses. It was a signal, a message to those who understood. Jesus was alive. The story that followed was not designed to explain what happened, but to conceal it, because the truth was far more dangerous than a miracle. If Jesus survived the crucifixion, it was unavoidable. Where did he go? The manuscript's answer was not symbolic or mystical. It was geographic and strategic. Jesus was taken out of Judea entirely, removed from the reach of the temple authorities, Roman informants, and revolutionary factions who all had their own reasons to use or destroy him. He was taken to Egypt, to Alexandria, the most cosmopolitan city of the ancient world, home to a massive Jewish population, a center of philosophy, medicine, and esoteric learning.
So this is claiming that Jesus ended up helping. He got help to escape to Egypt, and they're going to explain to you that he walked around in plain sight without them even knowing that it's Jesus. Now that's something that the Lord, we never considered that. The Lord kills his son. Sounds like a better Lord that allowed his son to escape. Okay? Think about it. I don't know what kind of Lord you're serving, but I know the Lord I serve is a great protector. The Lord has protected me and allowed me to escape. Why wouldn't he do it for his own son? So you just want to consider different options. I've always felt like if you did not believe Jesus died on the cross, you're not going to no hell. I've always believed that. Or at least, not always, over the years, I have developed that belief. Not always. Because I was trained that if you didn't believe Jesus Christ was the Son of God and died for our sins, you were going to hell. But over the years, using logic, I began to think different. So this is just giving you other avenues. I believe you're at risk of hell if you don't acknowledge the Creator. Like they say, blasphemy. But I wasn't there to know if Jesus died or not. So why would a good Lord send you to hell for whether you believe a story or not believe it and you were not there? Okay. So you could believe it. I'm not taking away from what you want to believe, but it's not, once you know more information, there was witnesses that saw Jesus didn't die. You can't ignore all these witnesses, y'all. Okay. Fair use, y'all.
a center of philosophy, medicine, and esoteric learning, and a place where a Jewish teacher could disappear in plain sight. According to Mary, this was not an escape born of fear, but a calculated withdrawal. Jesus' public mission had reached a dead end. His teaching.
It's kind of like this. He got to play like he dead so he not killed for real. Okay? Because they was definitely, what this is saying is Jesus knew that they was going to kill him. So let me just play like I'm dead. And Jesus was a good man. So there was enough people that helped orchestrate this ahead of time to assist him in the escape. Because Jesus was a very beloved baby, child, and man. Okay. So you got to remember, a lot of people, due to Jesus' kind nature and his heart, there would have been good people that would have been empaths that helped him escape. How to use logic. And I think it's more healthier to believe in a good Lord that ain't unaliving his own son or others. Satan's doing all of that, not the Lord I serve.
His public mission had reached a dead end. His teachings were attracting followers, but also enemies powerful enough to guarantee his real execution if he
Fair use, y'all.
remained visible. The staged death ended his public life while preserving the man himself.
It's a stage death. Stage death. The same thing they do sometimes when they put people in the witness protection program. They pretend like you died, but you're actually in the witness protection program. They'll do a whole funeral for you too, but it just won't be an open casket. They say, well, he was shot in the head too many times, or she was shot in the head too many times, so we can't do an open casket. So they do it even in the witness protection program when the feds put you in the witness protection program. You could have got shot for real, but they'll allow everyone to think you really died while they're moving you to Hawaii and changing your hair color and changing your name and teaching you how to disconnect from everyone you ever know or knew. So think about it that way.
In Alexandria, he could live anonymously, surrounded by trusted disciples, continuing to teach ideas that could never be spoken openly in Judea. The crucifixion, in this light, was not an end, but a transition, a symbolic death to one life and the beginning of another, hidden from history by design. What Jesus taught in Alexandria, according to the manuscript, was the true reason everything had to remain hidden. These were not parables meant for crowds, not moral stories designed to comfort the fearful. They were philosophical claims that dissolved the very foundation of religious authority. Jesus taught that God was not a being seated on a throne, watching, judging, intervening.
Thinking is better with us on your side. Banner Bank.
That is
Banner
the
ideas.
commercial for Banner Bank. So hold on. Gotta skip through this. Skip ad. Okay.
Intervening. God was the substance of reality itself. God was nature. Nature was God. There was no separation between creator and creation, no divine hierarchy, no privileged intermediaries standing between human beings and the sacred. Everything that exists is an expression of the same infinite reality. If this was true, then miracles were misunderstandings, not violations of nature.
This video right here, examining the fact that the Lord saved his son, is making me feel more closer to the Creator right now. Instead of looking at my Creator like a mass murderer and predator. So what this is doing for my soul, just hearing the information, and before I even watch this video, y'all, I've been doing a lot of thinking and spiritual thinking. It's not doing anything that's hurting my life to examine more avenues. I don't necessarily believe that the creator is killing Jesus or he going to kill me. I'm going to die. Now, Satan can kill me and the Lord allow me into heaven, depending on how you die. Because Satan don't control whether you get into heaven or not. That's one thing Satan has no control over. However, this is remarkable information from my perspective. Just considering, I've heard some of these stories throughout my life and throughout the last decade, but this video was mind blowing for me. It really was. Please like, share, and subscribe. Fair use, y'all. I'm going to continue to play the video.
Did not persuade God to act, because God was already acting through the lawful order of existence itself. And most dangerously of all, no priest, no temple, no institution could claim exclusive access to the divine. Every human being, through reason and understanding, could encounter truth directly. This teaching did not threaten belief, it threatened control. A religion built on obedience, ritual, and authority cannot survive a God who does not command, punish, or reward. It can only survive by silencing the idea entirely. That, according to the manuscript, was the real secret of Alexandria. As Spinoza absorbed these teachings, something deeply unsettling began to take shape. The ideas attributed to Jesus in Alexandria were not foreign to him. They were familiar. In fact, they were identical to the philosophy he had been developing on his own. Spinoza's central claim that there exists only one substance in the universe, that God and nature are the same reality, that everything which exists is a mode or expression of that infinite substance, was not a rebellion against religion. It was a rediscovery. Deus sive natura, God, or nature. When Spinoza realized this, the implications were staggering. If the manuscript was even partially true, then Jesus was not the founder of a new religion built on miracles and sacrifice. He was a philosopher who had reached the same conclusions centuries earlier and had tried to teach it, quietly, to those capable of understanding it. Spinoza was not inventing something radical. He was walking the same forbidden path. And that explained everything. The violence of his excommunication, the fear his ideas provoked, the urgency with which institutions tried to silence him. They were not fighting novelty. They were fighting recognition. Because if Spinoza was right, and if Jesus taught the same truth, then the church had not misunderstood Jesus. It had replaced him. Once Spinoza recognized the connection, he began to see echoes of the same story everywhere he looked. The manuscript of Mary Magdalene was no longer an isolated anomaly. It was one voice in a much...
Oh, of course, Leonard Wilson. You can share the videos with others. I would love that. That helps the channel grow as well. And Leonard Wilson says, and also we have to think the way we were brought up, home repairs to grandparents. Yeah. So Leonard Wilson says, I have some original music that you're more than welcome to use. It's just getting it to you. Okay, I would love that. So what I'll do is I'll go in one of your comments and respond. I got to figure out what email address I want to put on this account. Yeah. Oh, you said you were just playing, Leonard Wilson, when you were saying you're not as good as Natalie. Yeah. And I love your humor here. And the blessing that considering what you're going through. So fair use.
Mary Magdalene was no longer an isolated anomaly. It was one voice in a much older, much wider chorus that the church had tried desperately to silence. In the first centuries of Christianity, there were groups later labeled as heretics who told radically different stories about Jesus. Gnostic texts described a Christ who was never truly killed, a figure who escaped the cross while another body suffered in his place, a teacher who laughed at the illusion of death because he understood reality. Some traditions claimed Simon of Cyrene was crucified instead. Others claimed the crucifixion itself was a deception. What mattered was not the details, but the shared conclusion.
I like how in the more current baptisms, they're no longer making people say necessarily that Jesus, you know for sure that Jesus died on the cross. Um, you know, a lot of people will say in the name of the Son, Father, and Holy Spirit. But a lot of these, because a lot of these churches will know these secrets. So they will be removing some of those lies in the language of the baptism, having people confess that they know for sure that Jesus died on the cross. Because some pastors will watch this video. And if you have a pastor that's removing a lot of that stuff, you got a good pastor. They're leading you more to truth, is what they're doing.
It was not the details.
I know one thing, like at our church, Pastor Dan, he doesn't talk about all that killing and murdering and all that stuff because he knows that that's Satan. Pastor Dan doesn't teach that Satan is God. So that's one thing I like about his church is that he doesn't, he teaches the better parts of the Bible instead of the demonic parts of it. Because some of that Bible is demonic. So if you're going to a church where they're teaching that demon stuff that's in that Bible, you need to leave that church. It's not a blessed church. So just be careful with what church you go to and make sure it's beneficial and it is something that can save your life through the good teachings. So fair use, y'all.
It was not the details, but the shared conclusion. Jesus did not die.
No matter where you're headed, get a free trip safety check at Les Schwab Tires.
So many ads coming up on this. It's ridiculous. Anything that's knowledge, there's a blockage.
But the shared conclusion. Jesus did not die. Even more striking were the traditions that placed him in Egypt after the crucifixion. The Mandaeans, an ancient sect that survives to this day, taught that Jesus fled to Egypt and lived there for many years, teaching doctrines that contradicted emerging church theology. Pagan critics like Celsus, writing in the 2nd century with no sympathy for Christianity, accused Jesus' followers of secretly removing him from the cross while alive and fabricating the resurrection story afterward. These were hostile sources, not believers, and yet they preserved the same core claim. For Spinoza, this convergence was impossible to ignore. Independent traditions, enemies of Christianity, and suppressed Christian sects were all pointing in the same direction. This was not coincidence. It was residue. The kind of residue that remains when an uncomfortable truth has been buried but never fully erased. With each connection he uncovered, Spinoza faced a dilemma more dangerous than any accusation of heresy. If these traditions were true, then exposing them would not simply challenge doctrine. It would dismantle the psychological foundation of millions of lives. Spinoza understood something most revolutionaries.
Yeah, and that's true because people depend on what they've been taught. So yeah, it's like detrimental to some people to learn something different because they really have really relied on certain teachings. And a lot of the teachings are brainwashing, right? So this video is just interesting to me. As a disclaimer, everyone has a right to believe what they want to believe. But as I get closer to the creator that created Jesus, this was remarkable to me because it shows the goodness of the Lord that, hey, it's possible, according to this evidence, that the Lord don't kill, anybody or his own son. Would y'all think good of me if I unalived my sons? Would you consider me more advanced? I don't think so. Fair use, y'all.
Revolutionaries never do. Truth does not automatically liberate. For many people, it devastates. Faith in the resurrection had given meaning to suffering, comfort in death, and structure to an uncertain world. To strip that away overnight would not produce enlightenment. It would produce chaos. Spinoza had already paid the price of radical honesty with exile and isolation. He knew how violently institutions reacted when their authority was threatened. But his silence was not born of fear. It was born of compassion. In his writings, he observed that most human beings are guided more by imagination than by reason, and that imagination requires symbols and narratives to survive. To destroy those narratives without offering something stronger in return would be an act of cruelty. So Spinoza chose a different path. He did not publish the manuscript. He did not proclaim the conclusion. Instead, he planted tools. He dismantled biblical literalism. He denied miracles. He redefined God's nature. He trusted that anyone capable of following reason far enough would eventually arrive at the same question.
I think that the Lord is more than nature. I mean, the Lord is much, much more than just nature. But Spinoza explains more in other videos. So this is just the be kind of like the beginning of his journey, but he went deeper from my perspective than just nature. But I'm just letting you know, from my perspective, the Lord and the Creator is much more than nature. Okay.
He had faced. And perhaps, when the world was ready, someone else would dare to answer it openly. Centuries after Spinoza's death, the silence he navigated so carefully began to crack. In 1945, Egyptian farmers uncovered a sealed jar near Nag Hammadi containing ancient codices the church believed had been destroyed forever. Inside were Gnostic texts that portrayed a radically different Jesus, one who spoke not of sin and sacrifice, but of knowledge, awakening, and unity with the divine. Some described Jesus laughing at the crucifixion, watching as another body suffered in his place. Others presented God not as a ruler, but as an infinite reality in which all things exist. 2 years later, the Dead Sea Scrolls emerged from caves near Qumran, revealing Jewish sects whose rituals, language, and messianic expectations eerily mirrored early Christianity. Alexandria appeared again and again as a center of forbidden teaching, a rival intellectual capital to Rome. Scholars argued, careers collapsed, documents vanished, access was restricted. The pattern Spinoza recognized in the 17th century repeated itself in the 20th.
Cooling down up to 8 times faster? That would be cool. Only at Sleep Number.
This is another commercial, y'all. Sorry about that.
The pattern Spinoza recognized in the 17th century repeated itself in the 20th. Whenever evidence threatened the official story, control tightened. These discoveries did not prove that Jesus survived the crucifixion, but they did something more dangerous. They confirmed that alternative traditions had always existed, and that someone had worked very hard to make sure you never heard about them. If Jesus did not die on the cross, then everything built upon that moment must be re-examined. Without a physical resurrection, salvation through sacrifice collapses, and with it the entire architecture of institutional Christianity. But what emerges in its place is not emptiness. It is something far more demanding. Jesus becomes not a God who must be worshipped, but a man who must be understood.
Amen to that. Amen.
A philosopher who refused intermediaries. a teacher who pointed not to heaven, but to reality itself. In this version of the story, faith is replaced by responsibility.
Amen.
Meaning is no longer handed down by authority.
See, responsibility, key word. I'm going to replay that one more time because, okay.
Itself. In this version of the story, faith is replaced by responsibility.
Faith is replaced by responsibility. And this live has been going on a couple of hours, but in the very beginning, when I was talking about my own son Daniel and Miss Angel's prayer, see, her prayer doesn't make Daniel responsible for himself or anyone for that matter, but her prayer is specific for Daniel. So see, Miss Angel, she don't know enough about the Creator because the prayer is, from my perspective, unacceptable. That she was going to pray is just unacceptable. And it's really interesting that in this video it mentions it's not just based on faith but responsibility, because I talked about that at least the first 30 minutes to an hour. I mentioned that here and there. So ain't no man saving you. If you want to get off drugs and you want to start a business, you want to be a content creator, whatever you want to do, you got to start getting up and just doing it. Okay? It's the bottom line. So I love that, that was said there. And this man, Spinoza, I would consider him a genius. Now, this is what I would call a genius. The gentleman, Spinoza, he's a genius from my perspective. Not these freaking, when these detectives be calling these serial killers geniuses. This is a genius right here. This is a spiritual genius. Very smart man. So I'm loving to learn what this gentleman and this philosopher and this genius, Spinoza, was teaching. And keep in mind, he's basing what he's teaching on real transcripts and real witnesses that were actually there. You could believe Jesus died on the cross for our sins all you want to, but what did the witnesses say? You just going to ignore them? If the witnesses say the man got up and walked away and dressed up and went over to Egypt, you just going to keep ignoring that? The witnesses and the people that love Jesus that could have potentially saved him from death, you're going to not believe them? That's a lot of people you're not going to believe.
By responsibility. Meaning is no longer handed down by authority. It must be
fair use, y'all.
Discovered through reason, discipline, and self-knowledge. That is why this possibility remains so threatening. A resurrected God demands belief. A living teacher demands transformation. Spinoza understood this distinction perfectly. He knew that if Jesus taught that God and nature were one, then obedience was never the goal. Understanding was. And understanding cannot be controlled.
Amen. Amen.
It cannot be legislated. It cannot be owned.
Amen.
That is why this question still matters.
Mm-hmm.
Not because it proves or disproves a miracle, but because it asks something far more unsettling.
That's right.
What kind of world would exist if truth belonged to no institution at all? Baruch Spinoza never lived to see these discoveries. But the question that haunted him never disappeared. Jesus Christ truly died on the cross. This is what the Catholic, Orthodox, and Protestant churches all insist without compromise. To question it is heresy. And yet, from the earliest centuries of Christianity, voices refuse to stay silent.
Another commercial, y'all.
GLP-1s are like having a mute button for food noise.
Refuse to stay silent. Suppressed gospels, hostile pagan critics, Gnostic sects, Jewish polemics, and now modern archaeological discoveries all point to the same uncomfortable possibility, that the official story was chosen, not discovered. Spinoza understood why this mattered more than any theological dispute. Christianity as an institution is built on a sequence that cannot be broken. Death, resurrection, redemption. Remove the resurrection, and the structure collapses.
Mm-hmm.
As Paul himself admitted, if Christ was not raised, faith is empty. Spinoza wrote privately that if these things were true, then 2,000 years of belief had been built on sand. And yet he also understood something deeper. Most people do not live by reason alone. They live by stories. To rip those stories away without preparation is not liberation. It is destruction. That is why Spinoza chose restraint. He left questions instead of proclamations. He trusted reason to work slowly. And now, that same question rests with you. Not whether Jesus survived the crucifixion, but whether truth belongs to authority or to understanding. Whether faith should silence inquiry, or inquiry should refine faith. Spinoza's life ended in poverty and isolation, but his ideas outlived every institution that tried to erase him. And if the truth about Jesus is still unfinished, still fragmented, still buried beneath centuries of power, then perhaps that is exactly where it must remain, until someone is ready to look at it without fear. The question was never meant to be easy. It was meant to be asked.
Well, that's advanced insight for you. Here on the Advanced Insight channel, I just provided advanced insight from Spinoza of the possibility that the Lord is so good and such a good spirit, and a spirit has a soul as well. So the Creator in heaven is so good that it's potentially possible that our good Lord did not murder his own son. I ended on that note. Tune in for more right here with the Advanced Insight channel. I love y'all, and check in with me soon. YouTube is such a blessed platform to be a part of. I'm very grateful that YouTube is allowing all content creators to come here, and I'm very blessed to be here on the YouTube platform. Thank you, YouTube. Leonard says he got a couple of phone calls I have to make. I'll be back. No problem. This live is going to be ending anyway. Let me read these comments before I go. Thank you, Leonard, for putting that comment so I can okay, so let me go back here. Oh, I gotta look up the agape love. So Leonard says, I was just playing, sis. Amen. Oh, the music, I already read that one. Yes, you can share the videos. Oh, Leonard Wilson says, I love to see you laugh and not cry because it's got to be humor in it. Amen to that. I'm saying. Leonard Wilson says, I would consider you as the same person I met some weeks ago. It's not my place to judge you. So Leonard Wilson says, so you'll be bright eyes and Natalie will be sunshine. Laugh out loud. Leonard Wilson says, I got a couple of phone calls I have to make. I'll be back as soon as I can. Keep your head up, sis. Amen, brother. Thank you, Leonard Wilson. Yes, so I provided that advanced insight. That way, you know all the information so you can come to the correct conclusion. But I'm okay. I'm okay with learning that the Creator or the Lord does not kill his son. I'm okay with that. That's okay. And if people want to believe that Jesus died on the cross, even then the Lord didn't kill him. Man did. So at the end of the day, the Lord didn't kill Jesus. Man did. Those were men that killed Jesus. So look at it from that perspective too. Let's stop assassinating the character of the Lord, because the Lord ain't Satan. So we want to stop believing that somebody we pray to is running around killing people like he's human. Humans are doing that crap. That's who murdering you is, a bunch of humans. So I'm okay with it. Either way, from my perspective, the Lord ain't killed Jesus. Those wicked men killed Jesus. Those are wicked men nailing Jesus to a cross, if that's what happened. So, hey, wicked men don't always win, right? So if it's possible that the son of Jesus was able to escape in hiding and be right in plain sight in Egypt, fine. At the end of the day, I'm not going to say the Lord killed Jesus. Men killed Jesus. That's a fact. Those were men, wicked men, hanging Jesus to the cross or wanting to unalive Jesus. So I'm not going to blame the Lord for killing anybody. I'm going to blame Satan. That's what I'm going to do. If you want to believe in the spiritual world, why are you saying your good Lord did all this bad stuff? No wonder the world is going down. Because believing all that stuff is just like being a Satan worshiper. So let me check these comments. Hold on. Oh, agape love. I didn't look that up. So let's see. Because Leonard Wilson mentioned agape love and he believes in that. Okay, agape love is an ancient Greek term for the highest, most unconditional form of love. It is selfless, sacrificial choice to put the well-being and care of others above your own without expecting anything back. In the New Testament, it describes God's pure love for humanity. Leonard Wilson, expect something back. The minimum that you should expect back is respect. You are owed something back and you deserve something back from anyone you give to. It is highly narcissistic to not expect anything. Like I said, the basic thing you should get, like if you give something to someone, what you should get back is a thank you. So we are deserving of something back from my perspective, and most love won't be unconditional. But if you're able to act out agape love to the best of your ability, it's fine if you believe that that's love. But I have learned through loving, the worst thing I could do is not expect anything back. That's why so many people love unconditionally get disrespected, name called, beat up, abused, used. So yes, we want to break down agape love. It is an ancient Greek term, but usually most people that we're giving this agape love to, a lot of them won't be deserving of it. And we need to be very careful when we display or show agape love, because it is a powerful love. But unfortunately, most people will not be deserving of this type of unconditional love. And if you give it to them, you may be abused in the process. So you got to be careful with the distribution of agape love. That's my take on that. But it's healthy. One thing agape love does not do is unalive people. So if this is the concept and you agree with this ancient Greek term, agape love, it won't kill anyone. Okay. Most murderers do not believe in agape love, and that's their problem. So it can be healthy, but just use discernment. Use discernment with agape love. So let me go back into these comments. I'm looking through these comments. I'm getting lost in the comment world here. Okay, here it goes. I got lost in the comment world, y'all. My device is lagging, y'all. It's lagging. Okay, so Leonard Wilson, thank you so much for moderating today. I appreciate you so much. So hopefully y'all enjoyed the video, the lesson, and the information today. May the Lord bless Spinoza, the genius that provided the facts, y'all, and the information that he's basing largely on evidence. You can't hate him for that, right? Spinoza passed away, so may he rest in peace. And of course, if Jesus would have escaped to Egypt, he would be passed away right now, right? So either way, Jesus and Spinoza, or what would we call Jesus, Yeshua and Spinoza would be deceased right now anyway. Okay? So, thank you to Leonard Wilson. Thank you to Leonard Wilson for moderating. And may the Lord bless you all and keep you alive today, forever, and always. I love y'all. Please like, share, and subscribe. Tune in for more right here with the Advanced Insight channel. This live is ending 8:38 a.m. on the West Coast, y'all. Pacific Standard Time. Have a blessed day. Thank you. Bye.